From the Gospel, from the prophet Isaiah, chapter 11, verses 1 through 10. This is the branch from Jesse. A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse, from his roots. A branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and fear of the Lord. And he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes, or decide by what he hears with his ears. But with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, with the breath of his lips. He will slay the wicked. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. The wolf will lie down with the lamb. The leopard will lie down with the goat. The calf and the lion, the yearling, lie together, and a little child will lead them. The cow will feed with the bear. Their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play near the cobra's den, and the young child will put its hand into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain. For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. And in that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the people. The nations will rally to him, and his resting place will be glorious. And brief readings from the prophet Micah, and then the Gospel of John. But you, O Bethlehem of Ephratah, though you are little among the thousands of clans of Judah, yet out of you shall come forth to me the one to be ruler in Israel, whose going forth are from of old, from everlasting. Therefore he shall give them up, until the time that she who is in labor has given birth. And then the remnant of his brethren shall return to the children of Israel, and he shall stand and feed his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall abide. For now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and this one shall be peace. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, and neither let it be afraid. May the good Lord bless the reading, hearing, the living of his holy word. Amen. Is there anybody here today who was the smallest kid in your class? And you were up, Nancy. Okay. Okay. Is there anybody here who has? Oh, you too? Yeah, Joe.
My friend too.
anybody here who either grew up in the smallest house on the block or who right now lives on in the smallest house on your block?
I
Yeah.
grew up in the smallest house.
Grew up, okay. All right, is there anybody here who went to Sunday school or taught Sunday school here, and you had a really tiny Sunday school? We got Barb, I knew I got Barb. Okay, so no one wants to be the smallest kid in the class. And is there anybody here who qualifies to be in the lowest tax bracket? When we were going through college, my brothers and I were in a Shakespearean class, an English class, and somebody in class said, oh, only people who are dirt poor get the Pell Grant for college. And we were getting the Pell Grant. But we were happy. Yeah. But you know, the thing is that nobody wants to be the smallest kid. Nobody in our culture wants to live in the smallest house. Nobody wants to be in the smallest tax bracket. Nobody wants to say, how many kids are in your Sunday school? Oh, maybe 1 or 2. How many people average do we have on Sunday here? 12. And when people ask me about my church, sometimes I hesitate, because we've got people who are parts of these beautiful mega churches and people who have hundreds and many families on a Sunday, and they say, well, Renee, how many do you have? I got 12. I got 12 gorgeous people.
I was going to say, how many did Jesus have? As
many?
long as they're discipled
There
in
you
the right
go.
way, who cares?
So when we think about small, sometimes I'll say, and this is all based on a beautiful article that Janine gave me, the war cry from the Salvation Army. And there's an article called The Power of Small. And remember Charlie's CD jacket, less is more, okay? When we're faced with a large enemy, how much faith does it take?
A lot.
Oh,
No?
A little bit, just a little bit.
Like the mustard seed.
mustard seed.
Oh.
But actually, there's a lot of faith in that small, there's a lot in that small faith.
That's right.
That's right.
All it takes is just a smidgle. Just a smidgle of faith. When David defeated Goliath, what did he use?
Stones and the pebbles and the
5
slingshot.
smooth,
Stones.
tiny stones.
Yeah, but they hit their mark.
They hit the mark. When we do small, menial tasks in a day, what kind of tasks do we do? Laundry, cleaning,
Filing at work.
filing. I know that some of my faithful of you are down in the kitchen or up here before, and you're cleaning up. And maybe there are days when you say, you know, I'm one of the few. I know Janine had Mom and Barb, and there's a lot of people that will stay and faithfully clean up. But, you know, think about all the little things that you do, all the seemingly insignificant, tiny little acts of good. Do those things change the world? Where is God in these tiny, small acts of good? When we read the Christmas story, the familiar narrative that helps us to realize that if we feel small in our world, guess what? We may be the very people that God uses for significant moments. God often communicates in neutral moments, in quiet, unassuming, and humble tasks. Guess what? These small, thoughtful, kind deeds, these mitzvahs, open the door to heaven. It isn't those huge moments where our attention is being drawn to us. Those moments where we do something and everybody says, oh, wonderful, great, thank you. It's those small, humble acts those things we do behind the scenes, like the people who will set up for the Madison Chorale today, and they will tear down the sound systems. Nobody sees, everybody comes right before the concert and leaves right after the concert, and these good folks are there ahead and after. The people at the animal shelter who go in and feed these animals that need homes and pet them and walk them, and no one sees what they do. Heaven comes through that door. So how do we know when God is using us in our seemingly small life? How do we know? Let me put that up to you. How do you know when God is using you for good?
When I complain, I'm doing it all by myself.
Half of that's true.
You feel it in your heart.
You feel good about what you do.
And sometimes the other person will say, wow, that's exactly what I needed to hear or to whatever.
And you're just blown away,
Right.
you know, that you've affected someone.
One quick example, real quick, I'm doing another person's job right now who left unexpectedly, and it's pretty much the complaint line of 3,000 employees, and it's awful. I absolutely hate it, but there's a few times a day when an employee will actually thank me, and I'm like, oh, that was worth it, you know, so that makes me feel good.
That is a great, that is a very clear answer to what we're talking about. That is like, you know, you get the actual person or people who say, you've changed me for good, you've affected me. Did I see the hand over here? Okay. All right, well, and I would say for myself, this is the season of peace today. This is for the coming week, we're bathing in a new level of peace. Because every season, something new comes. You know, we think, well, we have the same scripture readings essentially, we celebrate with the same traditions, but life comes to us every year, every season, a little differently, because we're growing and changing, and because God is organic. God is living and flowing. And so peace is coming to us now, today, through the rest of the week in a new way. And my personal answer to how do I know that anything small and unassuming or humble that I do is God's will,
Significant to him.
significant. And to me, it's that wash over of peace. Peace is kind of the signal for me. And so you all did me a mitzvah, you did me a kindness today, because when I was transparent and said I feel anxious about our performance today, each of you said, especially Mark in the back, one of our leaders of the chorale, said, hey, this is to enjoy. And as soon as you said that, whoosh, my anxiety went away. So I know that that was a God moment. So when peace comes, we know that God is in the center of this. This is the Christmas and Hanukkah season of light and miracles. And it could be that other faith traditions also see this as a time, because we're not alone. We're all one, really. And we're in this hemisphere. And so when we lack the physical light, guess what happens? It's a reminder of how much we need it. That's the gift of winter. When light goes down, we realize we need it more than ever. So over 2,000 years ago, God executed the most important step in his plan of redemption. He sent his loving and humble Son from a lowly, lowly lineage. And God used small to happen. So remember that we think of God as almighty, and that is, we think of the eternal and infinite one that lives beyond and within time and space, that has no boundary, this mighty King. And the interesting thing is about this God is that it is the smallest, most humble moments, actions, thoughts, experiences that open the door to the larger. It's not the other way around. Jesus came into this world as a lowly, simple, innocent little baby. That is how we know the one. It can't be through grandiose, ego, loud, obvious operandi. It can't be. It has to be the small moments. I'd like you to take home as a gift for this week the back page of your handout today to reflect on. This comes from the War Cry on the power of small. And please take it with you. Have a cup of tea. Sit in your living room or by the fireplace. Sit by your word, by the scriptures. Perhaps listen to a piece of music that is quiet as you reflect on this. Because this really is the key to experiencing what Christmas and Hanukkah are all about, especially at the Christian level for us. Yes, Margie?
I was thinking about how God works, like you said, with the small, but later he makes it grow and become inclusive of others, you know. The small, it doesn't stay small.
Very, very true. Yeah. And I think it ultimately goes back and forth, because in the Aramaic tradition, according to how Jesus, that was his language when he spoke, we move back and forth between opposites, between breathing out and breathing in, between small and large. And so really everything is organic when it comes to God. Yeah.
Also, we honor the Sabbath, which is a day of rest.
Yes.
So that's, not what he's doing, but he's resting.
Beautiful, yeah. And the Orthodox rabbi that I work with at Beaumont, he teaches that as well. They observe the Sabbath faithfully every Friday night into Saturday, and that's the very reason, because much of life is loud and big, and they center their families in, and I think it's a good idea. They bring their children, their spouse, and the rabbi, and all the Jewish families that are Orthodox, and they just get quiet and reverent, and I think it's a beautiful thing. So as we move into this new living time of peace, let yourself choose to put yourself in quiet, humble, small moments. That is where the divine will meet you and open the door.